Hello and welcome. Today's video, I have a little resin and alcohol ink on canvas tutorial. Let's start out with all the supplies needed. To start off, I have my magic resin. It's the epoxy resin and hardener. And I've mixed equal parts, so 3 ounces of the resin and 3 ounces of the hardener for a total of 6 ounces of mixture. I mixed it well for 5 minutes and now I'm just letting it sit out for a few minutes so some of those bubbles can rise to the top and I can torch them out. And to color all these resins today, I'm using alcohol ink. So I have a black here, I have a white, a gold, and for the fourth and final color, I'm going to mix some of this blue and rainforest green to make a beautiful deep teal. I'll be dividing the resin into 4 using these plastic cups. They're 3 ounces each. And then I have some popsicle sticks to mix that up. And I'm going for a cell-filled piece today, so I will be adding in some silicone oil. Then I have my handy and very paint-covered torch to get rid of some bubbles. And then lastly, something I'm doing that's a bit different is I have a modeling paste border. To create this border, I simply put some modeling paste in this piping set. It's meant for icing. There's a slightly smaller tip there. And I just squeezed it along the edges there. It's not perfect, but I do like that rough sort of finish. And this will help the resin to not pour off the edges and create wells and waste a lot of resin. It will keep everything on the canvas. I normally get wells right along the edges, so I'm hoping this little border will help. And then lastly, I have the back taped off with some frog tape. I can peel it off after and I won't be left with a messy resin back. So that is all the supplies needed. Let's get to coloring this resin. I'm not going to measure it, but I'm just going to divide it up in these 4 plastic cups. And I do still have some bubbles in the resin. I'm getting impatient here. I don't want to wait too long. But I do find when you mix resin with alcohol ink, it does eliminate a lot of the bubbles. And we can torch or use isopropyl alcohol after to get rid of any bubbles left on the canvas. Now I'm just dividing up the resin into the 4 different plastic cups. A little less than 2 ounces per cup. It doesn't need to be perfectly even, but I do want roughly the same amount of each color. We do still have some bubbles, but again, that is okay. We're going to start off with the black alcohol ink in the resin. And I do find the black to be the trickiest color. You'll see why in a second. I added a decent amount, but when you mix it up, if you don't have enough alcohol ink, you get this interesting green shade. I'm not obsessed with it. I do want a pure black. So I'm going to go ahead and add in even more alcohol ink. I used to use alcohol ink all the time. In the last few years, I haven't used it as much. I just bought this little set and I was shocked how expensive alcohol ink is now. So I know I need a lot of the black, but I'm just pouring a bit at a time. I don't want to waste this. This was way more expensive than I remember alcohol ink being. I bought this 3-pack, the black, gold, and white from Series here in Canada, and for only 3, it was $20. I do not remember it being that expensive. So I'm going to try to preserve as much as I can while making sure I have that true black color. On to the white. And I find the white alcohol ink is a lot easier to mix. You don't need as much, and it's going to be white no matter how much you add it. It's also not transparent at all. Just adding a few little drops there and it's a nice opaque white. So that one's good to go. On to our next color. I have some crusty old blue and rainforest green. These are from years ago. Most of my other ones had dried up, so we're going to try to make our own teal using these 2 colors. And unlike the black and white, which are very opaque, you can see this is a lot more transparent. So it's gonna blend right in unless I add a lot more ink. So I'm gonna go ahead and add in a decent amount of the blue and some more green because it's looking very blue. I want it to be more turquoise. It's also getting real dark. I don't think it's gonna show against the black, so I added a few drops of the white. Okay, we're getting there. We are getting there, but it's still too blue. I want that turquoise color and I want it to be a bit lighter. So in with some more green, some more white. And let's see if this is a color I am picturing. We'll just take a little peek here. It's not as transparent, but that green is really not showing through. It's looking so blue. So let's add in even more green. We'll mix it well. All right, that one's getting closer. I'll fix it after if I need to. Let's move on to our last color, which is this amazing metallic gold. I am adding a decent amount of the alcohol ink here. If you don't add enough, it will be transparent and blend right in with your other colors. So it didn't require as much as the black, but we still want to make sure these colors are nice and solid. And that should do it. We have all 4 resin mixtures colored and ready to pour. I'm not going to torch it right now. I don't think you're supposed to mix alcohol ink with fire. That is flammable, but I still usually do anyways. But you should probably not do that. All right, for this last step, I just added a few drops of 100% silicone oil to each mixture. I do want to see some cells in this piece. And I'm not mixing it heavily. I'm just dabbing it down with the mixing stick here. Now that I take a look at this black mixture, you can see it still has that sort of green undertone. So I'm gonna go ahead and add even more black alcohol ink, and we'll try to get that to a nice deep black. Right, there we have it, all mixed and ready to go. All right, time to pour. I have the canvas propped up on 4 upside down plastic cups, and now we can start to layer all of our resin mixtures. Now, normally with my fluid art, I layer all the mixtures in a pour cup. I don't do that when I'm using pure resin because I do find they blend together a lot and you see no definition of lines or colors. So instead, I'm opting to pour one mixture on the canvas at a time and kind of creating a stripy look. And it will still not turn out stripy. A lot of the resin mixtures will mix together. You'll see what I mean when we're done here. To create a sort of gradient of colors here, I'm focusing most of the black on the right side of the canvas there. The gold is all over, and then contrasting the black, I'm focusing most of the white on the left side of the canvas, with just a few little stripes on the other side and some in the middle. And then for the last color, which is the turquoise blue, I'm going to focus most of that on the middle of the canvas. So all the colors are throughout the canvas, but we will see a nice little gradient from black to blue to white. And so far, I'm really loving the little modeling paste border. None of my resin is pouring off the edges. I'm not wasting a drop of it. Now we can start to spread it across the canvas. I'm gonna go nice and slow here. I don't want any of the resin to start pouring over the edges. I do plan to paint it after, and it's a lot harder to paint over resin than just the modeling paste. So just nice and slow, corner by corner. This part was very satisfying and almost therapeutic to do. It just glides along our little border there and covers the entire canvas. And it's really nice not having to worry about it pouring off the edges and then creating wells along the edge. That has always been my biggest problem with pouring resin over canvas is you do get those wells from where it pulls away from the edges. It's not a solid structure, it's canvas. So this border has helped immensely. I'll definitely be trying this one again. We'll just guide it to this corner here, make sure it's all covered. And you can see what I mean by all the colors blending together. We poured them one at a time, and it's still looking very similar to the fluid art pieces where I mixed it in a pour cup. Just have one last corner here. And looking at the layout of all the colors, I'm thinking I'm going to do a nice matte black border. Originally, I was going to do a metallic gold, but there's already quite a bit of gold on the canvas, and I don't like my metallics to be overpowering. So I think a nice neutral matte black will tie this piece in really nicely, but we'll have to see after it's cured. And even though we do have this border, it is still possible to get wells within the painting where it pulls away from the canvas and you're left with that uneven surface. So I will be checking in on this piece 15 minutes after pouring to make sure that nothing has moved too much. Now I'm just doing some final little minor adjustments to make sure the piece looks how I want it to. And there we have it. And I do find with these pure resin pieces, it will still mix together as it dries. These lines won't look as defined. Now I'm just taking my torch here, lightly torching the top to remove any little air bubbles that might be rising to the surface. And the last thing I like to do after torching is to spray the canvas with 99% isopropyl alcohol. This will further remove any little air bubbles. But if you're going to be torching and using the alcohol, make sure to do the alcohol after because it is flammable. You don't want to torch fresh alcohol. And now for the last step of the resin part of this piece. It's been 15 minutes and I came back to check on the piece, make sure there's no pulling away from the edges, and also to check at different angles to see if any hair or dust particles have fallen in. The resin isn't cured yet, so I can still pick it out with a tweezer before it's cured. Now I'm going to paint the border and we'll take a look at our final piece. And here we have it. The border is complete. The resin is cured. Now, I do always struggle to record resin. It's so glossy. You can see my reflection. Hi. I will try my best here. So starting off with the border, I went with a matte black. I'm thinking maybe I should have gone for a gloss black, but anyways. The resin itself has cured beautifully. It's nice and smooth. There's no wells, there's no bubbles. And I'll be honest, the actual pattern of this painting, I'm not overly obsessed with. I can't put my finger on it. But using a border for these resin pieces on canvas has been a game changer. I think it almost looks like a frame, which I like. It mixes up just having the canvas look. And it made the resin pouring and curing process so much easier. So I will definitely be doing this again in the future. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.